We take you live now to the doors of Parliament House, where Finance Minister Mathias Cormann is speaking with media.
Having considered all of the facts, having considered all of the information that the government had in front of it, as well, that Labor ultimately will come to the right conclusion.
But that sounds like a summary of what Joe Huffman said. He said your plan B is your plan A. Is that correct?
Well, the job of government is to make judgments on the basis of what is right in the public interest. That is what we have done. We're not playing political games. We're making judgments on what is right in the national interest, and we're now seeking to implement and give effect to those decisions. What is Labor's plan B? I mean, you know, we've got Bill Shorten and Anthony Albanese jumping up, trying to promote essentially a proposition where the taxpayer should be asked to pick sides in a competitive market. The Labor Party is asking the Australian government to help one business compete with another business using taxpayer resources. That is not appropriate. What is appropriate is for us to ensure that Qantas is able to compete on a level playing field with Virgin and other players in the aviation market.
Well, Qantas would say the job of government is to pass laws to help constituents. You're not passing laws, standing there first and being stuck on this one pass laws.
Well, the job of government is to make judgments on the basis of what is right. What is right is to ensure that we set the framework, the conditions, to ensure that all businesses, including Qantas, have the best possible opportunity to be successful. Our job is not to use taxpayer resources to pick sides in a competitive market.
The job is also, isn't it, to work with the Senate and make judgments that are also realistic?
Well, we are working with the Senate. I mean, we are engaged in an argument. We've made a decision. Having considered all of the facts, having considered all of the information, we made a decision that we are very certain to be the right decision, and now we're setting out to persuade the Australian people and to persuade the Senate that it was the right call. And this has still got a little while to go. By the time it gets to the Senate, hopefully, the Labor Party has been able to reflect on what is actually on the table and what the ramifications would be of what they're suggesting we do.
What are your thoughts on the inquiry into Qantas that's will be underway today?
Well, look, I mean, obviously that's a matter for the Senate to resolve today. As a matter of principle, the commercial decisions and judgments in relation to the running of an airline are a matter for the board, the management and the shareholders of Qantas. I don't think that the Australian government can or should run an airline by remote control, and I don't think the Australian Senate can or should run an airline by remote control. I mean, running a private business is a matter for the owners and the executives of that private business.
You may not be at the helm, but you're giving them a flight path with the changes of the Qantas Sale Act. I mean, how can you say that?
Well, no. I mean, the changes to the Qantas Sale Act ensure that Qantas is able to compete on a level playing field. I mean, the implication of what Labor is proposing is that Virgin should be in a better competitive position than Qantas. Labor does not want Qantas to be able to have the advantage of the same competitive opportunities as Virgin. That is just not sustainable, and you know, we are hopeful that on reflection Bill Shorten and Anthony Albanese will understand that.
What was your reaction when they asked for that $3 billion unsecured loan?
Well, again, I mean, we had a wide-ranging discussion in Cabinet, and as the Prime Minister has said, all of the different propositions and all of the different views were canvassed, and our judgment was that it was not appropriate for the taxpayer to be asked to pick sides in a competitive market, that it was not appropriate to use taxpayer resources to help one business compete with another business. What is appropriate is for the government to ensure that the policy and regulatory settings are such that all businesses, including Qantas, are able to compete on a level playing field, and that is, of course, what we are progressing today with the legislation to repeal Part 3 of the Qantas Sale Act.
Also, China Premier yesterday vowed to accelerate apparently the free trade agreement with Australia. What prospect do you give of being finalised this year, or when do you think it will be finalised?
Andrew Robb, as the Minister for Trade and Investment, has been doing an outstanding job. He's successfully concluded a free trade agreement with South Korea, which will help strengthen our economy and create jobs. We are hopeful that we'll be able to make very good progress with free trade agreements with China and with Japan. I wouldn't want to put any timelines on it beyond what has already been put on the record, but obviously the comments that have been made out of China are very promising and no doubt are the result of the very good work that Andrew Robb has been doing.
There's new figures out today showing the amount of profit shifting involved that Apple is undertaking away from Australia. Will the Abbott government be acting to capture or bring back some of that revenue for tax purposes?
Well, without talking about specific taxpayers, I mean the general issue that you're raising is of course one that the Treasurer Joe Hockey has pursued very actively on through the G20. There is an issue where businesses operating around the world are not necessarily paying their fair share of tax where they're earning their profits, and our view is, and that is a view that is shared around the world, businesses should pay their fair share of tax where they earn profits, and it's important though to address that in a coordinated way through international fora like the G20. I might just have to leave it here.